All right, welcome to CHUD Gaming. We're gonna be watching some more Halo campaign evolved shit, and the game looks like ass in my opinion so far.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today. Let me be frank to open this one up. Halo Campaign Evolved definitely has issues, okay? That said, I'm going to be that annoying, nitpicking Halo fan. Halo 1 is one of my most replayed games ever. I'm going to notice the things that change, even if they're small, and they all amount to something big, at least for me. This game is not for me in more ways than one. But for newcomers, maybe for you, but I'm specifically talking about the newcomer that will never come near a PC, will never come near an Xbox. There's no
Not to
chance you
mention
ever
that
come near
legendary difficulty
Master
is
Chief
literally easy
Collection.
mode.
If that is you, then go ahead and check this one out. But if
I
you
swear to
do
God,
have the option to
the
play
gameplay looks
Halo
so
1
easy.
in its original state, then you probably want to take that route instead. And that's a shame to say, because my real hope with Halo Campaign Evolved is this would be the definitive way to play this game. It's got some decent quality life. There's some stuff in here they absolutely nail that I'll go over. But I do think the bad outweighs the good here. So shout out to Xbox for the early review code. Let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite games of all time that has a remake. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into day one reviews, you're in the right place. Get subscribed. So the TLDR, what do I think is good here? I like how the Flood stuff looks and certainly how it plays. They did an excellent job with this stuff. The visuals, how dark it is, the gross, fleshy environments, and the use of an M-rated Halo. This is something we've called for a very long time. I love painting the rooms with Covenant and Flood blood. This game lets you do that with higher detail, and especially during the Flood segments, this really shines. They also just did an excellent job with the encounters involving the Flood, just throwing more and more at you. But the way they burst into bits, it's greatly satisfying. It's the thing that you could tell could not be realized on the original Xbox, and they maximized here. Absolutely wonderful job when it came to the Flood. I love what they did here. There are also some other cool changes thanks to the new tech. For example, some levels that used to be hidden loading screens, such as during the mission Truth and Reconciliation, there's a chapter called Belly of the Beast, and in the original Halo, you'd go up and it would kind of fade to a pink light. It was a really great transition, but now you just go up into the ship. That stuff is pretty cool as a longtime fan. It's like, oh yeah, we can just make this all one big level, and I appreciate that. Also, because of the new tech nowadays.
Or the thing about it, it just feels like they just like one for one copied the original and then changed everything and made a cucked version of the game. Like literally, like no one asked for this fucking game.
Missions like 2 Betrayals is really cool. You just get to feel the emerging conflict between the Flood and the Covenant. So some really good stuff there that is captured for longtime fans. The new skulls are pretty neat. The new trophy and achievement list, I think, is awesome. They do play into that classic trophy and achievement mentality that I like, where, you know, play this level, but with this specific setup of skulls, very challenge based. And it's a type of trophy list and achievement list that we've been missing for a while in gaming. So I really appreciate what they did here. So again, I wanted to lead with that to emphasize there is some good here before I nitpick and bitch a ton. So let's get into that, shall we? That was the good. What's the bad? Well, I think the encounter balancing in this game is absolutely shot, at least on the heroic difficulty. That's what I played on here, and there's moments it's absolutely terrible and unpolished. I couldn't believe that in certain stretches, such as Truth and Reconciliation, which I will do a full breakdown of in a moment here.
If you like, I swear to God, they took them like a year or two to make this, or 3 years. Like this, if you're gonna remaster a fucking Halo game or remake or anything, it's got to be better than the original, or like it. You just can't fuck it up. It's like kind of hard. But you have the original as an example. Every single thing about the original is already there. You know everything that's good about the game, and if the game isn't perfect, you shouldn't have fucking released it until it was perfect. Until every single like it's that simple. Like, look at Conquer Live and Reloaded. That was a perfect game, and the graphics are aging like fine wine or gold. Like, and this, I don't know. This is just fucking like ass.
Enemy AI breaks often enough to be noticeable, which will ruin some encounters. And enemy behavior, such as the hunters, are, in my opinion, way worse because they don't aggressively charge you to melee, which Bungie designed it that way. So when they went to melee, it opened themselves up from the back so that you could shoot them in that weak spot and take them out. Now, in the original Halo, the way the weapon tuning was done is like you could drop a hunter pretty quickly. So I don't mind that the hunters are more spongy in this game. I think that makes a lot of sense. But they also just shield hug and don't come near you unless you're sitting on their lap. Then they'll try to melee you, and they don't really open themselves up. So I feel like they kind of broke how important the hunter encounters are across this game, like, and the way they behave. It doesn't feel important. The hunter encounters are across this game,
what was that?
And the way they behave, it doesn't feel nearly as interesting to fight them or as intimidating. Now, I did compliment the visuals for the Flood. Broadly speaking, when it comes to the visuals for the rest of the game, there are dense foliage areas, such as the second mission in the game, that I think look all right, but by and large, I don't think this game really looks better artistically than the original. And yeah, sure, a little nostalgia talking, but there are levels like Truth and Reconciliation where the initial nighttime stuff looks like how Cog and I, when we were talking about on Defining Duke, defined it as like light dark. Like it's technically dark out, but the lights and how it's kind of blown out just makes it feel like it's not actually dark out compared to the actual nighttime mission that you would have in the original. And so, yeah, I just think there are parts where the visuals are not really adding to the atmosphere, which is something Halo 1 does so well. There are flawed missions, no doubt, like the library, which I do think they try to make some interesting changes with in this game. And by interesting changes, I mean, like, it's still a shit ton of encounters, but at least there's a couple of hallways and new rooms to turn down, and you'll still be fatigued by the end of it. There's no changing that, unfortunately. But the visuals, for me, missed more than they hit. The driving, oh my God. So they have this default driving control. And when you fire this game up, if you buy it, whatever system you're on, change it to the aim-based driving for the love of God. The physics still feel horrible. Like, I define it as Mario Kart driving on ice type of, like...
Bro, what are you talking about? Okay, the original driving was, like, awesome, in my opinion. Like
floatiness and driftiness that I know the Warthog always has a little bit of weight to it, but whatever this is, that just it didn't cook.
Yeah, I don't know how you fucked the Warthog.
When you're trying to control the Warthog on like the second mission in this game by using like accelerate with the right trigger and reversing with the left trigger, it also constantly tries to recenter the camera. So as you're drifting around, part of the feel of the Warthog is the way the camera...
Halo became a FPS, like one of the first good FPS is because the Warthog was fun to drive. That's why you have Halo. You fucked that up, you fucked up Halo. You fucked up every single aspect of the game. Like, the Warthog is literally, like, if it wasn't for the Warthog, you wouldn't have any of the Halo games you love today. It would have been a totally different game or genre.
Naturally swivels with it. This is captured in the aim-based driving. It just defaults to trigger-based, which until I went into the settings, I didn't realize this was in the game, and I was like, dude, like, this feels infinitely better, where you might not think about it, but even then, I think the Warthog is still really floaty in this game, but it's so much better than the trigger-based driving. So do not go into this game with the default driving controls. It's pretty bad. This is probably a bit of a hot take here, but I think some of the delivery for the dialogue in the game, combined with how they mix the audio, doesn't enable this game to hit the emotional highs of the original, let alone surpassing it. We'll go into some case-by-case examples. I think the UI is a bit messier here. I don't know why we need my guns in one of the corners of the screen. I think what they did in the original was perfectly fine. I think players are capable of tracking 2 guns in their inventory. I also don't know why we need all these different reticles popping up for weapons that you can pick up on the ground. I saw this immediately when I started the campaign on Pillar of Autumn, and just was kind of aghast at just how much UI was on screen at certain points. It just felt like it worked very much against the core of the identity of this series, which a lot of it leans into art and into tone and just taking all of that in. And when you have UI elements all over the place, I don't know why this is also a default option there. Less into the classic stuff, more into the new stuff. The prequel missions, to me at least, are relatively flat. Outside of the very, very tail end, there's a cool moment there, but definitely not enough to make up for like the new hour and a half of content that just kind of, I think, comes and goes. And basically what I'm saying with this entire list of bad is you can see how long I went on compared to the stuff I really liked. So yeah, none of this really makes it the definitive Halo 1 experience where you come to me, you're like, Maddie, I want to play Halo 1. I'm trying to send you to MCC. I'm not trying to send you here. So let's break this down further. Quality of life enhancements. What's here? Well, they, for example, removed the tutorial at the beginning of the game since this isn't a first-time console FPS. So in the original Halo, you would have this moment of calibrating Master Chief, and it's basically teaching you how to look around, how does your health recharge. This game makes the very fair assumption you don't need any of that, and so I think this is a totally fine quality of life enhancement. I talked about how some of these levels stream together a lot more naturally. I appreciate that, but otherwise, quality of life really depends on what exactly a Halo fan would call quality of life. There are some who will hear this and go, that's not quality of life, that's deterring the life of Halo. I'm talking about aiming down sights, sprinting, but yet no mantling in this campaign. Little weird. There's new weaponries, things that actually tortured me as a kid. I always was so bothered how on the silent cartographer you would see the
They mentioned sprinting. The one thing I wanted to say is the sprinting looks so ugly. It's like this. Like you just see the gun go up and down like this. At the bottom of the screen, and it looks so cringe. It's like every time I just think that it looks ass.
elite just shoot out the energy sword, and you couldn't get it in the game. Now you can. That's why Halo 2 was so awesome with all the weapons they started to let you get. But now you can get that in Halo 1. That is something really cool that I thought was just a full circle moment from when I was a kid. I remember seeing that elite specifically in the Silent Cartographer demo on Xbox before I even got the full game. So just having that was pretty cool. You can hijack vehicles now. This is another one that you'd, of course, come to expect with Halo, but 1 was the only game in the series really missing that. The waypoint system does prevent you from getting spun around in some samey-looking rooms, which sometimes in missions like, say, Assault on the Control Room, I think they add like a room or two, or they redesign them at the very least, and so it can be easy to get a little twisted around in this game. It always was in the original, unless you're like me, you just played through so many times. So it's not just relying on, say, switching to the Anniversary Edition mode in the library and looking at the floor and seeing, oh, the arrow's pointing that way. That's where we got to go. Just the waypoint system kind of takes care of it a bit, so that's some quality of life here. And they also removed the health pack, which we've known about, no doubt, but I think this is a massive negative for the game. So you could consider it quality of life, but you now have just rechargeable health. And I think no health packs is asked for a couple of reasons. One is just, I think the attachment you have to your health bar is a lot more significant in Halo 1. It's something I wish they didn't abandon with the future Halo games, but also it would apply to your vehicles. It would apply to people who boarded your vehicles. It made you care about the Marines. You felt really...
That's the thing. This is like one of the biggest gameplay changes of all time. Getting rid of the health pack. Bro, they had this in the newer games. Like, what are you doing? You can't have your health and you have two energy shields, and I know like both your health bars are. I know your energy shield, then your health bar. You break the shield, then you there's no shield. You break the health bar. What the fuck, dude? How do you get this wrong? Now it's easy. You just like, oh, I go hide behind cover, now health back. Like the game's easy mode, like easy as fuck. This is something that the modders are gonna have to fix. Like you're also like getting rid of the survival horror elements of the game. That the little amount of survival horror that this game has, you just took it away. Like come on.
Dad, at least I did when I was a kid. Anytime one of the Marines died, you heard them yell and you saw that they had just that one bar of health left. You're like, please hold on. Like, we're going to get there, man. Just, you cared on a level that is really hard to describe for other NPCs in games. And so when this game, for example, in the remake, defaults to friendly fire being off and no one has health packs that you can kind of track where their health is at, it just removes this little connection that you originally had with the game. And it's these little things that you'll notice as I go through and nitpick the ever-living shit out of this game. You'll just realize that, to me at least, all these little things do add up to something extremely meaningful that I think has been unintentionally or intentionally in some places whittled away at. So yeah, I think some people will say, oh, I just want rechargeable health. That's fine, but it makes a lot of encounters easier. And because it makes a lot of encounters easier, it reduces the tension of the game. And when the AI's
clearly the people that remastered this didn't like the original
breaking and some encounters are just horrifically balanced, now you've got a kind of destabilized fun factor in your campaign that, at least with the original, I find to be consistently fun the whole way through. So let's talk about these encounters. I think Truth and Reconciliation has it the absolute worst. So much so that I gaslit myself into thinking there's no way, like, I haven't played Halo Combat Evolved on Heroic in a while. I just replayed the game last October, but I saw this encounter for Truth and Reconciliation where I turned this corner. That's like 5 elite on screen. Do you see that? And mind you, when I was going through this footage here, there was a 6th and 7th elite that were behind the Wraith that you just can't see on screen right now. It's an unbelievable amount of enemies on screen at once, especially the amount of elites they're spawning here. So I went back to the original Truth and Reconciliation on Heroic, fought my way here, and the encounter difference for this room is staggering. And this is the case for so many missions. I don't mind a retuning. I don't mind a rebalancing, but it seems like their answer to some people saying, hey, I don't mind a retuning. I don't mind a rebalancing. But it seems like their answer to some people saying, hey, some of the weapon tuning wasn't that great in the original. Is there any way we can make some weapons stronger, some weapons less strong? And they're like, yeah, sure. And can we redo some encounters? And they just threw the kitchen sink at you in this instance. And there are plenty of moments like this. For example, there is one on Assault in the Control Room. There were so many enemies in one stretch. I just drove past them. I have never done that in Halo Combat Evolved. I've never done that in Halo.
They literally didn't
fighting
take their time
is the fun part in these games. The incredibly well-balanced encounters, but the amount of, we'll call them special enemy types that they use for some of these encounters, like they just sometimes spawn on top of each other. They're congested in areas. It's just not polished. I'm sure the amount of elites I saw in that Truth and Reconciliation mission is fine over time, but there's other little balancing changes. For example, in the original Truth and Reconciliation, when I'm walking around with my sniper rifle, if I see an elite and I shoot him in the head on Heroic difficulty, that dude drops dead, one shot. In the Campaign Evolved remake, there's always the shield you have to break and then you kill them. I think some people will like this. They'll be like, oh, more lore accurate. For me, I'm just like, this stuff with the extra health and then the extra elites, and it just all breaks the balancing, and that's ignoring the slew of enemies they'll throw at you. This is probably a good time to note the technical state of the game. I played this on PS5 because I just like, I couldn't help myself.
I don't know, multiplayer, you have
so
to break the
curious,
shield,
man.
It's
just, what does this feel like? And I'm here to tell you, it feels
all the other
so wrong. So wrong. But with all that in mind here, I think the game, at least on base PS5, ran fine enough. Didn't have any crashes or anything like that.
On PS5?
But the LOD's completely breaking down here. I don't know what's going on. But in this Truth and Reconciliation clip, this is not cherry picked. There are points in the campaign, like 2 betrayals, where you just see the LODs break down when there's tons of enemies on screen. It is constant. I imagine they tried to approach it in a way where you could see them at a distance, but they didn't need to render them in full detail. So that was all accounted for. But
I was watching a dude play, the guy that dressed up as the Master Chief and plays Halo. They threw a grenade on the ground right next to him and only took away half of his health bar. Or not his health bar, his shield. Only half of it. Like, and he said he was on Legendary.
Then when too much was happening on screen at once, the LODs drop, and so what you get is this kind of stop motion gameplay at times where your actual gameplay frame rate is fine, but the objects in the world space are just like slideshows. It's the weirdest looking thing, and it happens pretty often here. So yeah, I just found the encounter balancing not super acceptable here. What is acceptable is the new cinematics. I think some of these are pretty sick. Like the landing on the Halo ring is a really cool idea. It's cool to see this moment in a little bit more detail. And instead of just opening the mission, seeing from a distance, your life pod dropping on the planet, and then you wake up and everyone's dead, you kind of see everything there. And I thought that was a really good change. And with that in mind, let's talk dialogue here. If there's no better example of what I was talking about earlier, we're all...
The dialogue, from what I've heard, the elites and the bad guys, they sound like they're fucking men on estrogen or whatever to make them transgender. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, whoever... The voice actors are definitely trannies. I swear to God.
Bro, stop. All the little things that stack up make Halo. I think this is really it here. Cortana's lines, for example, go on mostly unchanged here, but they're met with a new sense of energy, of purpose. And as a result of some of these lines that were originally delivered a bit more direct and flat to meet that sort of AI,
Cortana
robotic
like
kind of approach that I think they originally had for Cortana, they now have some zip
like
to them. And depending on who you ask, I think these very lines might sit just a touch differently, even if they are the exact same lines of dialogue that you got all those years ago. I'll use Assault on the Control Room as an example at the end of this mission. Take a listen to both.
Covenant, we're right. This ring, it's Forerunner. Give me a second to access.
Oh, the voice actor, they still had the original voice actors in Halo. They purposely replaced them because they have no respect for the original actors. Like, they were still working at the studio and they were actively replacing these people for no fucking reason, just to be a big fuck you to Halo and the fans.
The Covenant, we're right. This ring, it's Forerunner. Give me a second to access. Yes, the Forerunner built this place, what they called a fortress world, in order to... Yes! The Forerunners built this place, what they called a fortress world, in order to...
Oh my god.
Wait.
Why
No,
does it
that
talk
can't
like
be.
that?
Oh,
What is
those
fortress
Covenant
world?
fools. Oh, those Covenant fools. They must have known. There must have been signs.
Slow down. You're losing me.
The Covenant found something. Buried in this ring. Something horrible. And now they're afraid.
Slow down. You're losing me.
The Covenant found something buried in this ring. Something horrible.
It's
Now
like,
they're afraid.
it's like
So you might hear that and you'll think to
HR
yourself,
presentation.
Maddie, I mean, what's the difference, bro? And I wouldn't blame you. But let me try to explain like the little things that I think make certain Halo cutscenes tick here. In the remake, you have a little bit more of a deliberate, spread out, emotional delivery, this fascination with the Forerunners by Cortana, the fortress world. And in the background of all of that, as the music's going on and she's starting to realize it's not like it's building into the Flood theme. It's more of a faint flirting with it until the very, very tail end of the cutscene where you realize what's happening if you've played this before. Whereas in the original, it's more of a tense snapping back and forth with the ramping music where she's like, no, those fools, as the music from the Flood is already kicking in and building. And there is something really anxiety inducing about that Flood music. And maybe this is a little nostalgia talking because I'll always remember playing this as a kid and just how impactful that track is. But still to this day, I always found that cutscene so captivating in the original. And it's not like it's bad here in the remake. I don't look at that and go, terrible performance, Jen Taylor. I don't look at this and say, wow, Halo Studios really messed it up. But it's the way it all mixes together, the way the lines are delivered, the way the music goes in the remake versus the original. It's not just pure nostalgia I'm talking from here. It's these little things, the way the delivery is, the way the music is used, and the lack thereof in the remake that make all the difference in just like, oh shit, something bad is about to happen. And then you get to that next mission, 343 Guilty Spark, and it's like a, okay, oh boy, like, yeah, things are really that bad here. To their credit, again, they captured the Flood stuff so well with the horror and whatnot. And so this cutscene just, again, falls really flat to me. And I think this is just a great way to describe Campaign Evolved. Freaks like me are going to find issue with the littlest things like this, and you will laugh at me and call me ridiculous, and that's fine. But I guess on the note of stories, let's talk a little bit about those prequel missions, right?
Okay,
You got
maybe
Sergeant Johnson here. Another great example of, it's a fine voice. I don't think this guy did a terrible job, but
Okay.
Sergeant Johnson just is not nearly as intense or in moments
Steve
of
Harvey.
humor, amusing with this new voice. And there are lines like this that I don't think help my case at all.
Pouring out a 40 from a dead homie.
Yeah. You know, the game's not littered with that stuff, at least from what I heard when I was playing. That was just a line I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no. Let's not say pouring out a 40 for my homie ever again in a Halo game. Please.
Video game.
Anyway, to Sergeant Johnson, these prequel missions. It's set 1 year before
What's up with
Halo.
those armies?
Chief and Sergeant Johnson board a Covenant research ship, and they're aiming to strike at the heart
It
of the
looks
Covenant
like
forces to give
they
humanity
gave
some
them
momentum.
steroids.
Pretty simple setup here. It focuses on a more religious approach to the Covenant, which I found to be an interesting premise. Like, you'll see elites dueling each other with energy swords as other members of the Covenant watch on, and I think this is a really awesome tone setter. There's even enemies like the brutes that show up and they have unique behavior patterns where if you shoot this little kind of device on their chest, it'll have them go berserk and attack other enemies in the vicinity. You can kind of use that as a weapon. That stuff's cool. There are other highlights like Sergeant Johnson providing some cover fire from above, and it really feels like you're working as a team. Like, some of that stuff is actually pretty cool, but ultimately I wasn't a fan here. And again, this goes back to what I said, where it's kind of a showcase of just like the little things that make Halo great not
Maybe a
being
little bit.
here. For example, chatty, jokey Chief is back in the prequels, right? So remember we talked a little bit about in Halo 5, we're like, man, if Chief really wants to gab, he kind of can. I will say this as a compliment to Halo Studios. I love how they presented Master Chief in Halo Infinite, because it was really in line with what I think we all knew Chief as. Less dialogue, the man speaks with action, and when he talks, it's with a purpose, it's with a meaning, you know, giving the Covenant back their bomb. You know, that type of moment where you're like, fuck, dude, like, you know, this guy is him, right? And in here, it's not like awful by any means, but he talks and talks and talks, and he goes back and forth with Sergeant Johnson and other members of ODST and just talks. He's got a lot more to say here. Maybe some will appreciate it, but to me, what it does is creates a complete inconsistency between the prequel missions and the main campaign. The main campaign, it's not like they added a ton of lines to Chief. Like, he doesn't talk much more than he does in the original, but in the prequels, it's like night and day. And this is before everything that happens
What's up
in
with the
Halo 1. So I'm
armor?
like,
It's like a
wow, this
different
guy
armor
can just
set
talk.
that we put
I think it stands out like a sore thumb for both new and old players, but that's just personally me. There are other little things like they hand you the power weapons without really letting you earn them. You know, Halo 1 has a really great cadence of how they deliver to you power weapons. For example, first time you get your shotgun, it's when the Flood shows up. So it's really strange to me when this set of prequel missions has all these new weapons, from the Brute Plasma Rifle, Needle Rifle is here. There's all these different pickups for you to get. But for example, you'll find right away there are Covenant decorated weapon racks with human weapons sitting on them.
Bruh.
I was like, wait, what? And this will be on their ship, mind you. This isn't like later in the campaign where you can kind of explain a little bit more. This is just on their ship. You'll find the battle rifle, the shotgun, sniper, rocket launcher. Like, there's no earning it. There's no, oh, here comes an encounter.
What the fuck?
Let's set you, oh yeah, you're gonna be hyped
Dude,
to see
that's
this
stupid
rocket
as hell.
launcher, and you're gonna need it, you know? That sort of thing isn't really here. And so they just kind of give you the tools and let you go crazy, I guess. This campaign also explores a little bit of the rivalry between the Spartans and the ODST. Like, you know, we used to be the ones who fought on the front line. Now you're just building soldiers. Now, maybe the books explain this better. Admittedly, I've not read much of the Halo books. I've not read any Halo books. I've just played the games a lot. So I can't consider myself a complete Halo lore geek on, say, the level I would with something like Fallout, where I'm pretty actively engaged with that lore. But I don't think these missions, for someone like me who would be a newcomer to this type of lore, I don't think the missions really convey this sort of struggle well at all. It leads to a pretty predictable
was that
storyline that
running
at
animation?
times is an exercise in being anticlimactic. Like, there's a weird lack of music in a lot of stretches of these missions, and there's this
It's
elevator
like it's a
mission
parody
design
of
at one
Halo.
point that felt straight up ripped out of Infinite. It's like the worst stuff Infinite has, where you just like sit on like a moving vehicle and just coast right through the guts of a Covenant ship and just shoot wave after wave, repeat after repeat. Ignoring the kind of anticlimactic nature of it, a lot of this story hinges on that relationship between the Spartans and the ODST. And because it's so short and there's no real buildup, it's just basically Chief kind of getting bitched at a little bit and then a very predictable conclusion from there. And because it doesn't really, I think, add much to the game, it's one of those things where it's kind of, hey, you're not missing out here. They're just 3 short
Dude, all
missions.
the
Don't add a whole
only
lot of
amount
emotional
health that
punch.
they can never take away is
Don't
half
add
your
any
health
really
bar.
super interesting encounters outside of one point at the very tail
Like,
end,
look,
where I don't think this should be something that gets
just
you
got hit by
completely
two-
over the line if you're like, oh, I'm
two
like you,
hunters.
Maddie. I've played this game so many times and I want some
He
new
should
Halo
be
1 stuff.
down to his other
We'll
health,
see what
like,
happens. There's rumors that they're going to
way
do
down
more
more.
DLC, but right now, just looking at it, the complete package here, I don't think
The
the
health
game
bar
really gains too
regenerates
much
way too quick,
by
bro.
inclusion of the prequel missions. I think things like the remix and the new skulls and the 4-player campaign co-op, this adds more to the game in a way that I think would increase your fun factor.
I feel like you have to use skulls.
So that,
like,
ladies and gentlemen,
looking
is
at
how I
easy
feel
this
all in
damn
all
game
about
is.
Halo Campaign Evolved. I think for those of you who are brand new coming in, don't know any better, and you have zero access to PC or Xbox for the very long-term foreseeable future, you'll be fine picking this up, and you probably
Yeah.
won't bat an eye
Wait,
at
and-
literally anything I complain about outside of some technical stuff and maybe the way some things are delivered and some encounters being more frustrating than others. I'm sure you'll have a fine time.
like and
For the
subscribe,
hardcore
guys.
enthusiasts, you know, of course, look around at your other Halo enthusiasts. I'd say like a Hidden Xperia, see what they have to say on the matter. But I personally felt as
just
someone who's
knew
like a
this game was
diehard
nice.
Halo 1 fan, not enough here in the way of quality or significant changes or
It's literally
excitement or,
just a
oh, they
rush
definitively did something
GOYSLOP
better here outside of the flood
cash
stuff where
grab
I'm like,
and
oh, yeah,
money
this is enough to
because
go out
Xbox
there
is
and get it.
going under.
If you got Game Pass, it doesn't hurt to go and play this with some friends. You know, this is definitely not one of those avoid at all cost things, but it definitely is a rare one for me this year. I mean, there haven't been many games this year that I disliked, so this feels new. It's been a few good months of just like enjoying everything. So here we are. I've gabbed on this way longer than I need. Few
his
good
health
months
at?
of just like enjoying everything. So
He's
here we
getting
are.
shot.
I've gabbed
He's
on
hit-
this way
like,
longer than I
he's,
needed
like,
to.
losing
I'll
that
pass it
many-
off to
he's
you.
not
Let me know what you
touching
think about Halo Campaign Evolved if you're
Too
picking it
easy.
up.
I
Otherwise,
swear.
I will catch you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.
9 out of 10. Like and subscribe. The Giga CHUD Gaming.